Hey, how you doing? This is Kareem. We are here with another edition of United Shades of Gray. I want to thank you all for tuning in on today. I have an amazing show for you guys on today. We are here with my guy, the Rob Father. And so we want you all to enjoy the session. I want you to come in with any questions that you have. The Rob Father is going to be in the house with us today, but our main man for the day is our 95th state representative, Representative Amos O'Neill. Mr. O'Neill, how are you doing, sir?
How you doing, Pastor? Very well, sir.
I'm doing well. Why don't you just take a quick second and give a shout out to our United Shades of Gray family here on WSGW?
Well, to all the family of United States of Gray, welcome to the show. Looking forward to conversing and talking, have a dialogue. I think that's how we get started on any issue that we need to address. We have, I'm sure, a long list based on just the past few months and midway COVID. We will be, hitting a milestone. March would be a year,
Yeah.
And time has kind of stood still in the sense of COVID, so.
Where did 2020 go? It was horrific. It was crazy. It was topsy-turvy. But when we look at it, we have literally stood still for an entire year.
Exactly.
And so we're going to get to all of this conversation and all of these things because I want to know you have had a hard fight and you fought a good race and all of those good things. So I'm going to get to those things and talk about what your plan is as we begin to move the 95th district forward, and what is your vision for Michigan, for your constituents? What is it that you desire to raise? So those of you who are listening or who are watching and listening to this conversation, you can come and ask a question that you would like to have Representative O'Neill answer. Let's tag, like, share, get our friends involved with this conversation, because this is my first time this side of the election that I've had an opportunity to sit and talk with him. And there is so much going on. We're going to start the way that we always do. And I want to talk about what's hot off the press. And you all know what that means. That means we're going to talk about the events of the day. And just to let you know that you can tune in each single week, every single week. We are here with United Shades of Gray. This show is going to be broadcast on 7 p.m. on Sunday at 7 p.m. on WSGW. It will be simultaneously simulcast 790 AM and 100.5 FM. But we're going to get into this conversation. All right. Normally, I would go through these things by myself, but I do have Mr. O'Neill riding shotgun with me. And out of respect, I want him to be a part of the conversation and him to be able to share with us his thoughts and his ideas, because there's a lot that has happened on today. Okay, starting off, today was number 45. Last day, the number 45's last stand. Ding dong, the witch is dead, the wicked witch is dead. Sometimes that's how I felt during the course of this year. And I'll tell you why. It wasn't that I did not like him as a person. It wasn't that I had, I thought he was well, there were some things that I did not like. I have to be honest about that. But it was just about the divisiveness that was generated in our nation, and how friends and countrymen and people that we've worked with, coworkers, we really saw a side of people. I think that he gave us an opportunity to be, in some instances, our worst selves as a leader. Representative O'Neill, you have been fighting the good fight. You decided to run for office. This day was historic in a number of ways, but seeing such an unpresidential leaving of the office, as we know that President Trump did not do the normal salutations and greetings and the tours that other presidents have. How do you feel? How did that make you feel to see that the highest officer of the land really had no regard for his incoming officer, something that has been a part of our tradition?
Yes, it was a view that the whole world saw. First of all, we've experienced just a lot of. I'll tell you, I'll just say it straight out, just a lot of hate. The heart flows the issues of life. Out of the heart flows the issues of life. And so what's in your heart comes out. There's no camouflage. There's no makeup. There's no covering you can do if your heart is bleeding, hatred, and separation, etc. And so that was just an expression of what's inside. And so I'm not surprised. And that's another thing we gotta understand as people of faith, Pastor. When sometimes we see people act out and we were surprised, but if you watch them and you see the condition of their heart, then you wouldn't be surprised. So I'm not surprised. He did what's in his heart, and so it's unfortunate, but God is good, and God always have a ram in the bush. And here go Joe Biden and Kamala Harris today. So
Well, okay, and I do like that, and I see where you're going, and I don't like to dwell on the past. Honestly, I was so glad to get those images out my head. I stood up, I gave a salute, and I was like, "All right, let's get to the next thing. It's time to move forward as a nation." So, those of you who are listening, and maybe I don't know if you saw it or you didn't see it. This morning I was watching. Probably it must have been about 8 o'clock. He was 30 minutes late, getting things together. He came out, did a quick thank you to the press, which was something that, he kind of never really took the time to do, but he thanked them for their time. He jumped on Marine One for the last time. That is the president's helicopter. Did a quick tour of DC, the seat of power. Then he would landed and did a small speech somewhere. I think it was in Maryland. I was sad they never acknowledged Biden, but hey, what can you expect when you know what you're dealing with? You don't expect anything more, right? Then he got aboard Air Force One. He and Melania Trump. One thing I say, Melania Trump she was always dressed to the nines as a first lady. They flew off into the horizon to Mar-a-Lago. All right, so today it's all about the inauguration. When you think of this year, Mr. O'Neill, and you two were on the ballot, when you look at this year from a national election and the historic nature of this election, what are the things that stand out most to you?
Well, everything was pretty competitive, and across the country, there are a lot of people on slates. But I think what stood out to me and what I tried to adhere to through my campaign was honesty, integrity, telling the truth, uh, you know, talking about my track record, the consistency over the years, and that's all I stood on. And being a man of faith, I believed in destiny. I do believe in destiny. I do believe in timing. And if you're purposeful with your life, there's a time and season for everything. And so in my career at city council, that county commissioner, that as well. I never in my earlier career tried to upend any other candidate because I always felt when the time was right, I would know, and I knew this was the time for me to move forward to run for state rep. I knew it.
I'm glad. I was going to ask you the question, but then you kind of tapped right into it. When you look at your timing and how you ran your campaign, I'll tell you this, and I've said this to you a million times. I think I was one of the first persons to be very vocal of my
Yes,
support for you. And
you
people are like,
were.
why are you supporting him? What has he done? And I'm like, are you serious?
Yes,
And I would recount, the endless years of you serving in the community. And that's how we initially met, was through
yes,
service opportunities. And people may not know it, Representative O'Neill, but you were responsible, through our partnership with Jason Richardson and the Jason Richardson Foundation, for bringing in nearly $1 million to charities
yes,
that were in the city of Saginaw. And
yes,
so I want to thank you for that service. So I was on board. But what I want to say that I loved about the way you ran your campaign, we had some conversations, and I was like, I don't like the way this looks. You were like, you know what? You pulled that Michelle Obama out. When they go low, we go high. And you said, I don't have to fight about my integrity because my integrity is in check. And so we just got to do the right thing. And so I want to thank you for being a man of character and integrity in a time when it seems to be something that we lack so very much of. As you begin, okay, today you have been sworn in, correct? I saw pictures of
yes.
this. What was that process like? Coming into the big leagues, the next level of service and of civic life. What was that like? Share with us what that was like for you as a new representative.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, just the whole prestige of being in the Capitol is just a beautiful facility first, and then there's so much history there. So being up there on the dais and being sworn in, it was actually humbling. it was really humbling to have that experience. Because God said in His Word, the government is on His shoulders, and He appoints and appoints and put people in office. He does. So I felt humbled by the fact that I had the opportunity to serve at the state level. God chose me, gave me the opportunity to represent the people, and so I took it all in, and it's a memory I'll never forget. Oftentimes we look on the outside from and look in and say, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do the other. Folks look at us from a microscope when we're on city council and county commission, and it's like the what do you call it, the quarterback, the couch quarterback, or the sideline quarterback.
The
We
Monday
always
morning
have,
quarterback.
yeah, we always have the right antidote for what you should do. And so I never subscribed to that philosophy, because I learned early that you don't know what's going on until you're in the game. And so being in the game, you get a different perspective. You get a sort of a high level view of what's actually happening. So that kind of seasons you. It balances you out. It causes you to have patience and not react to what you see on the surface, because underneath the surface there's so many layers of issues you got to deal with. You heard what I said? Issues you got to deal with.
Man, okay, so I want to take us through, because everyone, my family called and they were like, "Oh, this is going on." Oh, and I saw images of people, crying, and women excited about what's happening. When we look at this last political season, the year 2020, which was very interesting for a number of reasons. The number of votes, individuals that participated in the voting process, I think that's amazing. When we look at the opposition to the outcome, which has now, it will go down in history. When we look at the fact that Kamala Harris, uh, AKA Be It As It Is, and the first woman and the first African American woman to hold the second highest position in our nation as vice president. What does that mean to you when you see
Oh, that's
Vice
awesome.
President Kamala Harris? What does that mean to you?
That's it means progress. The struggles that we've all fought, even our four father leaders, King, Lewis, and so many others. They fought and died, and so each period of life, there are always key people who are on the battlefield. I use that analogy, and so this is a result of all those folks who have fought and died, paid their price, and now you have a Kamala Harris. And so it's I mean, you're speechless. It shows us that hard work. And this, I remember, Dr. King in his one of his speeches, when he said, "I've seen the mountaintop." He said, "My eyes have seen the glory." I'm paraphrasing. And he said, "Don't worry about me anymore." He said, "I may not get there with you, but we will get to the promised land." And so he saw something, okay? He saw a vision, but he knew we were going to get there. And so one this physical show of that is Kamala Harris, and there's so many others. You have Stacey Abrams. I mean, she's like a rock star. She showed us how we need to organize our community to gather those votes. We have the power, Pastor. We just haven't tapped into it like Stacey Abrams has done it.
You, you
Okay,
know,
and so
when you were, excuse me, but when you were running, you were saying, you know what? If we get out and vote, there's no way that you could not win your election. If we get out and we take voting seriously, there's nothing that we can't do. I remember you sharing that and saying that. I want, because you went exactly where I was going to go next. Absolutely. Our caller, Stacey Abrams is fired. When we look at Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams, Keisha Lance Bottoms.
yeah,
These three women have really turned this nation upside right. I'll say not upside down, but upside right. We look at this is, I want to say, Black Girls Rock. This
yeah,
is in
yes,
politics, Black women. Sisters are doing it for themselves. I remember that song. And so now when we see this, I mean, and I think about young brown girls. We had, to see President Obama, but you said something, and looking at the fact, just 2 days ago, we were celebrating, Dr. King's legacy. And
Yes.
2 days later, we are now looking at, we've had a black president. Now we have a black vice president who also happens to be the first female. What should people take away? Because that's a lot to process all at one time. What are you taking from this, gleaning from this,
Yeah.
Amos?
Now, I think, I have 3 daughters, as you know. And so when we raised our daughters, we always inspired and told them they could do whatever they wanted to do. We gave them that in their minds and in their hearts. And so what I see as a result of what's happening now is so much energy, confidence. There's an air, there's a feeling in the air, and that's not that song I want to sing. There's a feeling in the air that there's a wind of change, Pastor. There's a wind of change coming. When that wind comes, there's sometimes the winds are so strong you have to get out the way. Okay. So the wind of our vote is so powerful, there's nothing that can stop us. Okay. Stacey Abrams proved it. Okay. You see that landslide, the votes in Georgia was just phenomenal. To have 2 victories like that, there was no question about in terms of discrepancies. Well, the percentage wise, they won. But that was organized vote, and that energy of change, that wind of change is so powerful. And in Lansing now, there are some really some powerful ladies down there. One is Sarah Anthony. She's a rock star. She's in her 2nd term, and there are others that are there. But she's one that stands out, and she's a mover. I'll tell you, she just got appointed, elected to the caucus chair.
That's here in Michigan.
That's here in Michigan, in Lansing.
Absolutely. Right.
That's a big seat to be the caucus chair.
Yes.
The whole Democratic caucus, she's the chair. Okay, and so soon they'll be selecting vice chairs and things like that. And then she's a strong member of the Michigan Legislative Black Caucus. And so women like her and others, that wind of change is here. And what I take away, and one of my roles is to, be a part of that wind of change, because we're now in an era for Black and brown folks where we have to be bold. There's passivity and adjusting your disposition to fit in. I mean, you have to be original, and I've always tried to be original. You have to be who you are. And there's a message T.D. Jakes preached. He talked about nothing will go to waste that you've gone through. I'm sure you might have heard that.
Nothing shall be wasted. Yes.
Nothing shall be wasted. Yes. So you know what I'm talking about. So all the things you've gone through, all the things Stacey Abrams went through, all the things Amos O'Neill went through, has prepared me for the opportunity I have now. And so people be not ashamed of small beginnings. I started out as a janitor, cleaning toilets and sweeping floors in cleaning buildings. I did it with pride. I walked to work until I had enough money to buy me a car. So I started at the lowest level, but I had an attitude that I'm better than where I was. And that's another thing our young people have to have. Don't matter where you are right now, you're better than that. And always prepare for the job you want when you're in the job you're currently at. It's a mentality, Pastor. It's a mindset. The wind of change starts in the heart. It goes to the mind, and then the body follows through action. Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. What I often say to people is that you have to work your job until your dream becomes a reality. And that's exactly, you have to, while you're preparing for this next job, you got to get that hustle that's going to put, take care of bills and put food on the table.
That's right.
And so you're saying that you went through that process. One of our callers, or one of our people on social media, said that they highlighted the fact that you said that we have to be bold. And I want to ask you, as an African-American man that is now a part of our state legislative branches, what does that mean when you say you have to be bold? This is a year that we have to be bold and unapologetic, knowing who we are. What does that mean to you?
That means it's so many things. I'll start with this. We're dealing with a lot of inequities and disparities, COVID, police engagement, unfair housing practices, employment, there's a whole list of things. And so we'll just take, I know this is probably something that's going to come up, but just our encounters with law enforcement.
Absolutely.
Now, people try to say I was a Trumper and all kind of crazy stuff, but they don't know my history. I started out working and trying to talk to young brothers in the streets 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because they were killing each other.
That's right.
Okay, parishioners on patrol.
That's right.
It's over 10 years old. We were going out at night. Hey, brother, don't do this. We got plans. Let's do this, etc. Okay, so through that activity, we formed partnerships with law enforcement because we want to let them know where we were, what we were doing. If something went down, we needed to call. And so over the years, I built those relationships. Now, okay, so if folks know my history, they wouldn't have those weird things to say. So, you got to be bold now. We're dealing with issues, the continuation of our Black men being murdered. Okay, and then look at January the 6th. Now, that was disheartening. It hurt, embarrassing. The whole world saw it. It was a shame. We all saw the treatments in terms of the repercussions for B&E. If you break into somebody's house, I'll just use myself as an example. Okay, we'll cut that. Now, I'm pro Second Amendment. I own a weapon. Okay. Now, if someone breaks into my house and I'm inside, I'm going to protect my house. All right. So,
absolutely,
B&E, that's a crime. So to break into a Capitol building in D.C., vandalize it, terrorize it, and then you're seek and destroy it. You know what they do and what they've done to folks who's trying to usurp authority and coups. Gaddafi. What do we do for Gaddafi? What do we do for Saddam Hussein? We, as United States of America, we send military.
We removed
to seek those folks out, and what do we do? Okay, so that's a high crime. That's a high crime. So we saw that happen in front of us, and nothing really happened yet. But there are some folks who are being held accountable right now. But when Black folks look at that, and I know they have because I've heard them, they say, "Wow!" I saw the post like, "Wow! If that hadn't been us, we would have been just spewed out all over the grounds." And so that's, you say being bold. I'm being long, but I'm gonna hit the point.
No,
being
go ahead,
bold.
take your time. Right.
So when you're at the table, and so folks make all those assertions, I'm blessed to be at the table. You can't have a conversation or make change unless you're at the table.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm at the table. So to be bold to that caller is when I have the opportunity, I'm going to speak truth to power. I'm going to speak the fact, what I know as a Black man first. And then as a representative, how do we change policy? That's key. How do we change policy to make alterations to that? But you got to also understand, you cannot legislate the heart. Okay. So you change a policy that simply does not change behavior. Okay. It's just a little detail.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's what I mean by being bold. You got to speak truth to power. You got to speak truth to the situations that are right in front of us, and not shy away from it. I've never been that way. And there's a way to do it. I may not do it the way you think I should, but I have, the paralysis, and navigation skills for how to get in there and make the point.
I want to ask you this question, because one of the things that we say here at United Shades of Gray is, it's conversations on race in America. What do you see post Trump administration, post that entire 4-year process and understanding where America is today? If you were going to have a conversation with white America, what do you think are some of the key things that need to be a part of that conversation?
Truth and honesty first. First, before you can make change, you have to admit there's something wrong. Okay, you got to own it. And so first, America has a history of ill treatment of Africans, Black folks, through the slave trade. We built this country on our blood, sweat, and tears. And so laws have been created to control our elevation, whether that is in secular or any type of elevation there is some type of restraint that you have to fight through. So first, be honest. Own what happened. We're not asking for pity All we asking for is a fair shot. You know, when you're in the race, I ran track, and we all have a starting line. If you start at the same line and you beat me, cool. But if you like 3 blocks down the road and you say my starting line is 3 blocks back and we racing, you know, you're gonna get to your destination way before I do, and you're gonna have, you know, and then you don't have the obstacles that I have to deal with as a black man. And so truth, honesty, own up to what happened, and then be willing to make some changes systemically, you know, systemically, the system, you know, it's in education, employment, police. Okay, let's go back to January 6th. Okay, you had all kind of folks down there, right? All right.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So,
So I thought you were getting ready to say something because what I was thinking in my mind was what all of us said, what we were all saying, and it was funny because we were saying if this had been a bunch of black folks out here storming the Capitol, scaling the sides of the state building, we it would have looked a lot different. And you know, our counterparts, our white counterparts, they struggle with understanding. You use the term systemic issues, and I was really excited because I was listening to President Joe Biden as he was, you know, getting ready to swear in his people for these next tasks, because everybody has been acting because he didn't want anything to happen to these individuals. And one of the things, there were a couple of things that, and I made a couple notes here. He said that if first of all, he wanted to make sure that there was equity in his governing, and saying that if anyone was treated unfairly, be it a black, a Muslim, a woman, that they would be fired immediately. He talked about, you know, returning to the Paris Accord, Climate Accord. These are all executive orders that he signed. He talked about the economy and what he wanted to do with the economy. And then he had the audacity to bring up and to name by name George Floyd,
yes,
and the 8 minutes and
he
45
did.
seconds that changed American history,
Yes, he
and
did.
how the world was finally be able to see what we've been saying forever. And he used the term systemic racism. And he said the systemic racism yet exists in our country in so many facets. And this is what you're talking about. Now, on this show, I feel that we can change anything that we can have a conversation about. But you said something that was very important. We have to take accountability. We can't just say, okay, this happened, this is over, let's move forward. But accountability, what does taking accountability, for my brothers and sisters that are listening to this conversation, will hear this conversation, in your opinion, what does taking accountability from white America's perspective look like, Mr. O'Neill? What does that
Again, you
look
know,
like?
it looks like uh, first admitting what was done was wrong, and then if you talk about systemic systems, you got to change those. And folks that owns their own companies or that have the lever pen to whether or not to approve that housing loan for you, or give you that scholarship for education, or give you a opportunity to expand your horizon, learning the skilled trade. You know, you got to be, your behavior has to change. You see, you know, I can sit here and talk to you, you know, if I'm a black man, but I'm a Caucasian man, we talking about race. And I say, yes, okay, I understand. Yep, yep. And I leave you next year, we come back to the same conversation. And
It was really bad, right? It was really
that's
bad.
what we've been doing. We've been coming back to the same conversation for years. And you can track change, you can see change, you can see behavior change. If you're listening to me and you're an avid listener, you say, oh, I listen, I hear you, but I see the same behavior that I'm talking to you about. If I'm your boss, and or I'm a father and I'm talking to my child, my children, if I'm talking to you about something that needs to be adjusted, and a month go past, 2 months go past, a year go past, and that same behavior is prevalent, then you didn't hear me. You did not hear me, because if you heard me, your behavior will be reflective of what we talked about.
Okay, I think that's a very important point. So accountability means acknowledging that there is something that is wrong, that we have been wrong, And what do you say? Because I'll tell you, I've heard this a million times. Well, I never had a slave. My parents never had a slave. You know, this was so long ago. You know, I think we need to move on from this. What do you say to those individuals? They acknowledge that slavery was wrong, and this is what you're talking about. Oh, it was wrong. We did. It was really wrong. It was heinous. We should have never happened. I feel so bad for my forefathers who did that. But you know, so we got to change things. I'm not prejudiced, so I think we just need to move forward. What is your response to just wanting to move forward? They'll accept the responsibility, but they just want to move forward. And you talked about that uneven advantage in the start. How do you handle, or what would you say to someone in a conversation who says, you know what? Well, we're all equal now. We've had a black president. We've got a black, female vice president. There is no inequity. How would you address that? And what do you say to that individual?
Well, the president and the vice president that we had, and the current vice president, the president we've had and vice president we currently have, they don't run the corporations, they don't run the businesses, they don't own companies, they don't make those decisions that affect you and I every day. And so again, back to what I said, if I'm in control of a lever and I push the lever to restrict you, prevent you from moving forward, then that's hearing. You say you hear, but you don't hear me. So you got to be able to make a change physically in a progress. Discrimination, my ability to keep you from moving forward, to be racism. So if I'm not willing to change the policy or the structure of my company relative to hiring black folks or hiring Hispanics or allowing upward mobility, there's a phrase called lid level. You go to
Right.
so far and that's it. And so it's the behavior, it's the attitude of willing to change policy structurally in terms of movement, education. Just look at education. Let's take that. I mean, this is low level stuff here in terms of equity. We can look around our community right now, and we're grappling with the fact that a lot of our students didn't have access to have internet service.
Absolutely.
So we got the hotspots and all those elements there. But I mean, come on, you look at Flint, the water system. Okay, what happened there was a travesty. That's a third world problem. So it was a decision made. Somebody, and they're going through the trials now, and there's some folks going to be held accountable. So decisions were made that said to the folks that were being serviced by the water, oh, we're going to save some money. We're not going to treat the water properly. We're not going to access the appropriate water to make sure you have healthy water, et cetera, et cetera. Decisions. You got to alter your decision-making process that impedes folks or discriminate against folks, whether it's food, water, shelter, education, employment, all those amenities that we struggle with now. And so this is something, again, here, we're talking about the same things over and over, year after year.
So you're saying that if we're continuing, and I'm with you, if we're continually having the same conversation and all we ever do is talk about the issue, but there is no real mandate for changing the issue, then there really hasn't been any accountability. Because once you understand that accountability means that once you take accountability, that you then have to look. I'll tell you something, Representative O'Neill. Companies have asked me to come in, and I've talked with a number of CEOs and presidents of companies, and they've said, how do we begin to bring diversity? And I'm using air quotes. How do we bring diversity to our company? And I asked the question, first of all, why do you want to have diversity? What does that mean to you, and why do you want to have diversity? So I'm like, oh, we want everyone to be able to feel that and we want everyone to, come in and be a part of it. Then the next question I ask them is where it always gets silent. What are you willing to give up? Because what you're saying is, if we are really going to take up accountability and we recognize that there have been some improprieties and some things that were disparate in our actions, then it means that we have to do something I can't let you start 50 yards ahead of me if we're running a 100-yard dash and I'm at the start line and say, okay, whoever wins is going to be fair now. But we have to say, okay, we got to bring you back. You got to come back to the start line. We're going to start on an even playing field, which means that blacks and brown folks have have to be allowed opportunities at the table. How do you see in Michigan? And I know the governor has done this huge plan to bring diversity and inclusion and equity, because those are other words. We want diversity, but equity and inclusion are really the most important keys to bringing diversity to the table. How do you think in Michigan we can begin to bring some things and change some things to level the playing field? Where are some key areas that we can begin to operate in?
Well, I think one of the things I think is important is what you're doing. You have a facility that fosters entrepreneurship, starting your own business, owning property, investing in ownership of homes, investing our money together. For example, I say this all the time. We have some of the best underdeveloped property on I-75 in Buena Vista Township.
Yeah.
Now, so here you go. We have economic engines that support us, but that property yet is still undeveloped. So that says to me, we have to take ownership of our destiny, Pastor. We do as folks collectively. I always refer to Black Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's our motto. We may not get back to that level, but that concept, when I was growing up, 6th Street, Potter Street, we had Black businesses all down those areas. I remember it, going down 6th Street. You can go to the movie, you go to the store, you get your hair cut. I mean, there's so much business down 6th Street, right down by where your church is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that was a Black business corridor. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I remember growing up. Yeah, I remember growing up seeing that.
So we have to reinvest in our own communities. If you want to talk about really change, that's one of the only way I see we will be able to talk about inclusive, because when you own your own, the discussion changes. When you're redirecting your funds and your resources, your dollars, and you're pooling it in your community, the discussion changes. So the thing that the lever that gets attention is money. I mean, we are consumers. We spend billions. If we pooled half of that, we just take our own community. If we redirected our money for 30 days, if we had a collective, and we've tried to, well, let's shop here for this many days. Let's shop here, but collectively, we're all on the same page in our thinking, in our commitment level. Then that's how you start to, you can't turn a big shift quick. Yeah, it takes time. Right. But if we do that systematically over a period of time, then everybody will want to talk to us because we're controlling our destiny. I mean, that's for me, when you want to get serious about changing our community, because we always say, what can we do? What can they do? To help? No, what can we do as a people? Now that's the discussion. That's a larger discussion. And I know you're there because you're doing it, but that's the discussion we all as a group of community folks need to have to redirect our resources where we can empower and build in our own community.
I like what you just did, because I asked you a question about what do they need to do, and you said, you know what, because to be honest, we cannot wait for white America to come in with an S on their chest to save us, because it's not going to, we see that it's not going to happen. We have conversations about reparations and what we're due. They recognize that there has been a misdeed. They recognize that we, rebuilt Japan after Hiroshima. We have taken care of the Native Americans after stealing their land. There have been so many others, the Jewish Americans. There have been so many other entities that have, in essence, received, reparations for that. And so if we haven't received it by now, the idea is that we do not need it. We do not deserve it, and we're not going to get it. So I like what you said. There are things that we can do in our own community to begin to reapportion and adjust where we sow and how we sow. And the idea and the principal key being that when we become owners, we create our own table.
Exactly.
So we don't have to wait to be invited to a table. We don't have to, play a game to get inside the room. We create our own rooms. We create our own tables. And by doing so, we bring direct empowerment to our communities.
That's it.
When you look at your role, okay, because you are a Saginaw local guy that has been here doing great things in the community. And now you are going representing the 95th district in Lansing. And you see the disparities and the inequities that exist in the city of Saginaw. Think about how there was no investment in downtown and they were allowing it to shutter. And as we left and dollars left and programs left and everything left, then all of a sudden it becomes vital.
Gentrification.
What did you say?
That's gentrification. I mean, you move out one group, then you wait a period of time, then you move back, buy the property, and you redevelop.
And now it's impossible to get land in that same. We've seen this happen across the country. What are we going to do? And when you look at where we are, I'll ask you this question. What are the three areas that as Black people that are part of the 95th district, that you represent, what are the key things that we need to begin to look at? And I'm going to ask you, I'm going to say something that one of the people, Sylvester Licken says, I'm in total agreement. My uncle owned the gas station on the corner of Washington and Powder. And so I guess he's saying we got to get back to that concept of ownership. When you look at the district that you represent, what are the three areas, if we could get 3 or 4 areas that are imperative, that if you were saying, look, my constituents, I want you to really take a look at getting involved, investing, building in these key areas, what would you say those areas need to be?
Well, first of all, I'll just start here on the bottom floor. We have food deserts. We all know that. If we want to invest in fresh produce, we talk about health as well. I said that early, health as well.
Absolutely.
If we're not eating right, having access to quality fresh fruit and vegetables and good meat and all those amenities, then that's the issue. So we need to work together, collectively. Now we put up Popeyes and other fast food restaurants.
Clogging arteries.
Okay, we need to put up a full service grocery store. We can do that. We have the capacity to do that collectively, resources and funds that are available. We can do that. Owning home ownership, home ownership, not renting. We need to get young families to consider getting a mortgage, owning property, making that investment for your family. So what that does, you have to think about generational perspective. Okay, if I have a family and my daughters are up there in their 30s and I raised them in an apartment all their lives, so they wouldn't have a concept of home ownership. So that generation of, you talk about passing wealth. Passing wealth is having land that you can transfer over to.
Absolutely.
And so if you give them the mindset, oh, home ownership is the way to go, they're going to do that. Okay, they're going to do that. That's another thing. And then investment in your educational opportunities. In education, I don't mean 4-year colleges. We have a great skilled trade program in Youth Build right downtown.
Absolutely.
That's one of the best things moving. And I'm a part of that group. We got young people in there. I'm not sure if you've been in there yet.
Yeah, I actually went in and we did some training on some resin coating with their floors and things. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Great program.
So that's our generation, folks. So for me, where I am now, I'm making decisions for my grandkids, your grandkids, really structurally. And so we got to give them something. We got to see it. You get what you see. If you don't see nothing, you don't get nothing. I mean, I'm serious. You got to see it. And we got to let them see it. You saw things growing up. I heard you in your conversation. You saw people successful. Yeah. You had the opportunity to be around a diverse population that gave you a different perspective and insight. And so those 3 things, property ownership, we need to invest in our community and put amenities like grocery stores there that we can have. Okay. And then invest educationally. And it's not always 4-year education. It could be a skill, trade, or talent you have, and you go and you build that craft, you get better at it, and you're in business yourself. You own the company.
Absolutely.
You own the company. And then that's generational wealth that you pass on to your children, kids around the neighborhood that see you. I had a young man, a couple of young men, they stopped me, they came in my yard. And this was early in the campaign. I was putting up my signs. They said, "Who are you?" And these 2 young kids. And I told them who I was. They said, "I've seen you." And they live around the corner. Long story short, I told them who I was. I talked to them. I said, what you guys doing? I said, you guys, you can cut grass, break leaves. I said, when I was your age, this is what I was doing. Long story short, I wind up hiring one of the young men, and well, actually two, and I paid them pretty good, helped me with my signs and cleaning up my yard. And, that's investing. So they would never forget that. Never, ever. When I was at Houghton School, I remember Don Scott in the hallway, standing up in a nice suit. And I said, man, when I get to be, I want to be like this guy. He was a principal at Houghton Elementary. Okay, 6th grade. And so I had somebody to inspire after. So we got to be that change we see. So let people see something better, they'll do better.
I think you have nailed it on the head. Now I want to turn the conversation slightly because you are going to be tasked with a tremendous responsibility now. As we understand that it is the state's responsibility, governors and state legislatures, to really figure out how we're going to move forward as we begin to try to get a hold of this pandemic that we're currently with, this COVID-19 pandemic. As coming from an area that has been hit hard for a period of time, Saginaw was like higher than Detroit in terms of our percent of infection, our rate of infection. And you have been on top of it. I've been getting, since this thing started, daily, updates on where we are with COVID cases. And I greatly appreciate you for that awareness. What do you think? How do you see or foresee the state of Michigan moving forward as it relates to the vaccination, understanding that our community, Black communities, have a tendency to fear those things, and how do we move forward to make sure that just having a vaccine is not good? It has to be in someone's arm. What are we going to do as a state, and what are you going to push for legislation to make sure that we make the right decisions moving forward?
Yeah. Well, in terms of access, the governor's really been pushing. Actually, it was trying to just purchase, I think, over 100,000 just for Michigan, and then also, creating a relationship with some of the distributors to get our own supply. And so the stockpile that they said we had, we didn't have. Okay, so but I think her aggressiveness in terms of being deliberate about making sure we have access to those vaccinations is very critical. She's working on that right now. And then our local health department, I will give credit to our director, Christine Harrington, and Dr. Jaleesa Pruitt, who's our medical officer there. And they've been really informative. I think education is the key in terms of knowing what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And technically, and really seriously, if you looked at the last report, we were down 10% in terms of cases.
Yes.
Last report I sent you, and so that's a good decline we're on. So what we've been doing, wash your hands, mask, and social distancing, that's been helping. And so we're on a downward spiral. I was talking to a guy up in Traverse City today. A representative called me, from the other side. Say, hey man, just want to talk to you. We had a conversation. He's in Traverse City. I told him, I said, our cases are going down. He said, boy, our cases are going up on Traverse City. Okay. So the governor, to her credit, I think she's done a whole lot to keep us safe. And I think us working with her as a caucus, the Democratic caucus supporting what she does, because we are in the minority, as you know. Absolutely. But we got to stay tight and hold our numbers with her. And, and then some on the other side feel the same way we do too. But I think with the change, the shift in leadership at the national level, that makes a big difference as well. Because again, we had to jump through hoops, turn flips, and cartwheels just to get basic stuff. Now having a national agenda and having a president that believes and understands the importance of setting the national agenda, then that flows down. Okay.
I appreciate it. And now, it's Representative Vanilla. It's so crazy how fast time flies. If you could just really quick, I'm gonna give you 30 seconds to just give a shout out to your constituents. Then we're gonna wrap up this show. I'm definitely gonna have you back in the future. What would you say to those who are listening?
Well, just say that the wind of change is here. As your representative, I'm committed to taking those bold steps, making those tough decisions to move us forward. I'm not going to shy away from the tough issues of race and equities that we all see so clear. And so don't be fooled and have the impression that I want to address the tough issues. I've done it all my life, and I'm at the table to do that, and I plan to do it because we have a lot of discrepancies and disparities that have plagued us for years, right here in Saginaw. And I'm getting key appointments on different committees. I'll be a member of the Michigan Legislative Black Caucus. I'll be an officer on that committee soon, and so there's some various other committees that have potential to have influence that I'm being recognized for based on my experience, not a token position, but again, you have to be at the table. I'm going to be at the table representing all of you, and I'm open to your views, your questions, your criticism, all of that. Bring it to me. Do it through Pastor or my information. I'll make available to Pastor Kareem so he can share with everybody.
So we'll
My
post.
contacts, and you call me. If you don't agree with me, I want to know that. I want to know why, and so we can talk. So I'm okay with that. So that's the only way I can learn. And then the last thing I'll say is, I can't do this alone, and therefore I've committed to setting up a cabinet. Like the president's got a cabinet. You saw all those folks. I'm going to have a cabinet of folks. What that means is, like you, Kareem, you're part of my cabinet already. You already
Absolutely.
know that. And so, you're a subject matter expert in entrepreneurship, how to build business, et cetera. So when legislation opportunities occur in there, I'm saying, hey, Kareem, and you have people you talk to, hey, what do you think about this? How do you think we should craft this legislation to impact this population, et cetera? Healthcare, law enforcement, all those areas. I'll have cabinet members that I can tap into to stay abreast of what's going on in the community.
Well, I certainly look forward to it. I want to thank you for your time. And those who are listening, as he said, the winds of change are blowing. It's time for change. I want to thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you.
Tune in next week with more of United Shades of Gray.
Thank you.